I've got a submission here from clifton23, and the first thing we're going to look at is this weird twitch at 3 seconds on the video. So we'll play that back and you can see what we're talking about. Oh, let's do it at 100%. There we go. Okay, so there was the twitch. You say it's a throttle twitch, but let's analyze that a little better. First of all, let's look at RC command throttle. Did the throttle move at the moment when that twitch happened? The throttle did move slightly. It does look like you bumped the stick a little and then returned it back to the bottom. Let's just check that again. Yeah, the moment when it starts to move is the moment where you raise the throttle just slightly. 1065. Let's take a look at your min check is 1040. That doesn't matter anyway, though. No, sorry. 1065 is your does it matter? Yeah, no, that does matter. 1065. If your min check is at 1040, why is your throttle or your input side at 1065? That's odd. I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe you have idle up. That's going to be my guess. 1065. You raise it slightly and it all sort of blips right there. So now let's look at this blip a little more. If we look, we can see that the diagonal two motors, first of all, they're starting to climb, aren't they? They're building up. You've got some I-term buildup on the ground, which that's also interesting. Let's bring up your gyro plus PID yaw as well. And we can see that your yaw I-term is growing and growing, and then it drops a little. I wonder if what happened is that the yaw I-term was growing and growing and growing. Yeah. It's odd that it was growing like that while you were on the ground, but that's because your throttle is raised. Beta flight will not let the I-term accumulate till you raise the throttle, but since your min check is 1040 and your throttle is at 1065, because again, I'm guessing you're using an idle up, I can't think of any other reason why that would be, then that would explain why your I-term is growing on the ground. So, and then this twitch happens. Now, I can't explain this twitch exactly. It doesn't look like the copter moved at all. So it doesn't look like this twitch is a response to somebody bumping the copter. And if we look at RC command, oops, there we go. If we look at RC command, yaw RC command, we can see that the stick was not really moved at all in that moment where that twitch happened. So it's not like you bumped the stick. So I can't exactly explain why that happened, but I can see that the I-term is building up while you're on the ground, and in recent versions of Betaflight that should not happen because the I-term should stay at 0 until you begin flying. And I believe that the issue is that you have got min check at 1040, but you've got your throttle bottoming out at 1065. So at the moment you arm, Betaflight believes that you're flying, and then it does not reset the I-term. I hope that I've got all those details right, because I don't actually feel 100% confident on all the conditions that need to occur to let the I-term begin to accrue. For example, I can't remember if you also have to move, you have to, if the stick is centered, will it not accrue? I'm sorry, I don't remember all the details. Boris follows this thread and hopefully he'll chime in. But so I don't know why your I-term is accumulating while you're on the ground, but I would say don't leave the copter on the ground like that. As soon as you arm, get flying. If you're going to sit on the ground, disarm. That's what I would say. You say that you fixed the problem by adding Throttle Expo, which makes no sense at all to me because the throttle doesn't really seem to have anything to do with this. I fly with Throttle Expo of 0. There's no problem with flying with Throttle Expo of 0. And I also don't know why the yaw I-term buildup is being resolved by putting in the yaw deadband, because if we look at RC command yaw, it's barely, it's the stick is centered. You don't have a problem with deadband, right? I mean, if that fixed it, more power to you, but you really have no, I don't know why adding deadband would change anything because the stick is really staying almost completely centered, almost perfectly centered all the time. It's basically 0 or 1 the whole time. So I can't, that doesn't add up to me, but there you go. Let's look at the rest of your post. High frequency noise in the roll D term. Let's look at your roll PIDs. Let's find a point where you're actually flying. There we go. Yeah, so I agree that this is high frequency noise in the roll D term. That's these sharp, narrow jaggies here. We only see it at certain throttle positions, and that's normal. I would say don't worry about that. If I wouldn't necessarily assume that that's a problem. Like, let's take a look at your motors and see if that's actually coming out your motors. You can see your motor traces are really quite smooth. Even in these periods here we start to get a little bit of noise. But I probably wouldn't worry about that much at all. It's good that you noticed it. I mean, yeah, you're paying attention. If you are concerned about it, the things to check are you can either raise the D-term average count or you can use the D-term LPF hertz. Those two things are mutually exclusive. If you set D-term LPF hertz to a non-zero number, then I believe the D-term average count is disabled. The difference is between, this is simply a windowed average, and this is an actual first order low pass filter. They have slightly different effects. You could play with them to see which one you like better, but yeah, that would be set D-term LPF hertz to like 60 if you want to smooth that out. But really, if your copter is flying well, I wouldn't worry about that at all. And you have oscillations. Well, I don't see, let's see if we see any oscillations, like P-term oscillations on roll. Here's some. Here's an oscillation for sure. Let's watch that. Okay, so that's prop wash. You're bouncing around in the prop wash. That's normal. I would say that if you want to try to tune that out, I would lower P as long as the rest of the flight stays acceptable. I find that when I raise P to the point where I just start to see prop wash oscillations and then back it down again, then it usually ends up that the copter still flies great, but it flies pretty smoothly. By the way, I know I've said that you should raise P to the point of oscillations and then back it down to like 65 or 70% of that, and that's not what I just said about prop wash oscillations. When we talk about raising P to the point of oscillations, what we mean there is the point where at full throttle the copter starts to oscillate, and that's a much more extreme point than prop wash. The copter will be much more likely to oscillate in prop wash situations than in a normal sort of full throttle climb out. So one way to tune it is to go full throttle, raise P to the point where you get oscillations at full throttle, and then lower it to maybe 60, 65, maybe 70% of that number. And a more refined way to do it is to raise P and do sort of sharp turns and steep drops and watch for prop wash oscillations. And basically, if you tune just to the point where prop wash oscillations start to happen, or maybe slightly less than that, in my experience, that results in P being just about right. So I would say if you want to get rid of these, one way to go about it, the simplest way is to just reduce P gain on this axis. You can also do some more refined tuning with the D term to try and clean it up. But that is kind of a rabbit hole and is not going to be productive for everybody. So you can raise it, you can lower it, you can play with the low pass filter, you could try raising D gain as well. Your D gain does not look excessive overall, so you have some room to raise it if it'll help with your tune. Alrighty, well, I hope that's helpful, and happy flying.